Network.
The Omni in Atlanta, Georgia plays host to the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series. Today, it's the four-wheel drive trucks. This class is dominated by Chevy, but Ford and Dodge always offer a strong challenge. They may look like the truck in your driveway, but these creatures are highly modified. It's pulling at its finest on Trucks and Tractor Power. Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power here on the Nashville Network. Today we're in Atlanta for indoor truck pulling at the Omni. Hi, I'm Gary Lee alongside Rich Hooser. And Rich, for over a century, trucks have been a mainstay in the American workforce. But in recent years, trucks have found their way into motorsports.
That's true, Gary, and they've come a long way. Especially what we're going to see here tonight is the four-wheel drive truck pulling. Now, when this first began a long time ago, it was just stock vehicles. This guy down the street would just see if he could outpull the other guy with the sleds. They just go out in the field, and it's just grown since then.
But like all motorsports, this has become much more sophisticated.
That's true. Now, these guys are getting sponsorships for one thing, and you can get these sponsors on the side of your vehicles, which in turn gives them more money so they can increase their horsepower and increase the strength of the vehicle, because you're going to see a lot of different stuff out here tonight. One thing you're going to keep your eye on is the weight that's on the front of these vehicles. Now, it looks like the front tires are almost flat, but there's no weight on the rear end. These guys can actually pick these rear ends up and move them around to the vehicles, because once they hook up to that sled and it starts to move, that gives them all the weight they need for the back end of their truck for the traction they're going to need to get a good pull.
Well, it's also most appropriate that right now we are seated on a tailgate.
That's true. Back when I first started watching, that's what we did. We backed the trucks up to the farmer's field, now 50 feet away is where these guys would be pulling, and hey, we just had a good time.
Atlanta, Georgia is bathed in sunshine. A good day to be outside, but today we are inside for truck pulling with the four-wheel drive trucks. Jim Lyons will be the first to pull with the test pull. He is standing by with Rich.
Okay, Jim, you're going to be first in the pull tonight. Do you like being first so you can take a chance of coming back, or do you rather be down farther in the class?
No, I like being first, but the track's going to be a little bit tacky here, this first hook, but I'm going to have to take what I do because we broke a push rod and didn't find it till later, and we don't have no spares with us, so we're going to take a shot on our first hook and hope it's the best.
Okay, well, good luck to you.
Well, Rich, he loses a push rod. How much difference will that make in horsepower?
Well, quite a bit for Jim Lyons. Now, he's an excellent engine builder, and it's too bad that he didn't notice that earlier, but he's going to be running on 7 cylinders. Now, he's going to be changing his gears, as you see here, so he might want to get a little bit higher gear so he can get up a little bit more speed, so he won't have to work the engine quite as hard as he normally would. Now, Jim's a great driver, and he always does a good job out here. We're just going to have to wait and see what he does.
The truck is called Stitches. It's a GMC out of Louisville, Kentucky. You heard Jim say that this is going to be it. He will take whatever he can muster here. There will be no second chances for this truck because of the engine problems. A full pull here for this class in the Omni will be 180 feet. So Jim backs up gingerly. There is that safety latch that's on the back of that pickup truck as well.
Sure, we'll be able to see that a lot of times during the shows. You can see here, just now hooked it on there, and he hooks on the safety chain, and then the big hook is the main chain. Now he lets him go forward to tighten it up first, and then he'll watch the flag man at the end of the track. When he gets the green flag, it's okay to go whenever he's ready.
Well, we would call this a test pull. He normally would have a chance to take it over again if he didn't like it, but with the engine problems, he'll take whatever he gets. And ever so close to the full pull, he records 175.72.
Gary, he did a great job. He did what he had to. We've seen him change the gears inside. He might have been running in a higher gear, like I said, because he did an excellent job running on 7 cylinders. Blew a little bit of smoke out of the motor, a little raw fuel, but that's normal from an engine running on only 7 cylinders.
Well, let's see what Jim thinks of his drive. He's standing by with Army Armstrong.
Lions run looked real good, but right at the end, a lot of blue smoke came out. I think, Army, we dropped the valve. It sure felt like it. It had a good run going, and then it just lost the cylinder. I was already running on 7 because we broke a push rod, so something caused it to break the push rod, and evidently it had a valve hung up in it. You're going to run at this level of competition, you've just got to lean on this equipment all the time, don't you? We sure do. We got to make it hard on it. So, that's all you can do is do your best. I just hope the pull holds up.
Well, if he only had 6 cylinders, not a bad pull at 175.7. Now we're looking at the Saturday Night Driller. This is the lone Dodge in competition here in Atlanta. This is Tommy Holman out of Wayne, Ohio. Holman needs to pass his first white line to best Jim Lyons, and he comes so close but fails to do it at 174.08.
Of course, Saturday Night Driller always running good, but he was running on 8 cylinders and Lyons was only running on 6. So who's the better driver here? Because in the 4-wheel drive class, driving skill has a lot to do with it, other than the horsepower and your tire speed. And of course, he just didn't have the momentum to get up there to pass Lyons' mark. Just a little shy.
John, you're sitting currently in a number 2 spot, but you and Jim Lyons did something in common. You both ran down the middle of the track. Why?
Well, we figured it's a little bit harder packed out there. The track's probably going to come apart a little bit later on in the class. And I was hoping to get a solid spot, and I just got a little bit too much to the left and lost my traction.
Here's the STP Chevrolet out of the state of Texas, Dwayne Baytag. 640 cubic inches, and this Chevy turns out 1,400 horsepower. But again, he has to go almost the full pull.
He sure does. Now, they're all running real close down at the end of the track, and it's going to take a good start. Now, you notice on these 4-wheel drives, they all come out of the hole just a little bit slower than maybe you would see on like our other shows with the tractors and the 2-wheel drives. Watch when they come out of the hole, they just ease it, and then when they get about 50 feet, that's when they put the hammer down, and they give it everything it's got and hold on to them front wheels.
And Dwayne falls short. His run only 160.55. He'll not be too happy with that one.
As I can tell what happened, it looks like he didn't give it enough soon enough. He has the horsepower, but he didn't seem to use it. I guess he thought since his track is a little bit loose right now that he had to just try to work it up slow and try to get it there. But when he got down to about 100 feet, it was too late.
Dwayne, a lot of these drivers have many more years experience in this sport than you do. What do you look for when you go out there?
I almost like to watch a few trucks run to kind of see what I need to do. It's, like you say, it's new to me. I try to stay out of the throttle, keep from breaking the tires loose just now. I don't know if I did wrong by doing that or not.
After 3 pullers, they are in the order they pulled. Jim Lyons in stitches, Tommy Holman, the Saturday Night Driller, and Dwayne Baytag in the STP pulling team. We have more 4-wheel drive truck pulling from the Omni in Atlanta. Stay with us. Well, as the 4-wheel drive truck competition continues, our next puller comes out of Winchester, Virginia, the 3 Bears racing team. This is the Chevrolet driven by Bob Smith, 620 cubic inches, and he can grind out about 900 horsepower.
And if you notice down here, Bob Smith has a passenger with him, a bear, and that bear's from the 3 Bears pulling team, and that crazy bear is always in the truck with him.
And once again, the distance to beat, 175.72, and here goes Bob. Well, Bob and his bear friend fall short, only 162.98.
Not a good run at all, Gary. He come up the starting line pretty good. He just took it easy, but I think these guys are taking it a little too easy. They're afraid the track is falling apart, so they don't want to give it a whole lot of horsepower. At first, I thought he didn't have the horsepower to it, but he was just not giving it what it needed. And then once he got halfway down, it was too late. He had to end it right there.
3 Bears Pulling Team's kind of unique. It's a father and son operation. This week, Dad's doing the driving, so I'm going to ask the son, what would you have done different on that run?
I can't say I've done a whole lot different. Maybe a different gear now that I've seen him run. Maybe a little different gear, a little bit different driving technique. But I couldn't really say anything before he ran. Just what I know now looking at it.
The boy knows where his food comes from, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I don't understand it. I drove the way I generally drive on a track like this. It just wouldn't go for me today.
Well, Rich, I'm not sure this will ever catch on, but here is Pinstripe Primer. This is a brand new fiberglass Chevrolet body for Donny Sanders and the Tennesseans, so they pinstriped the primer, and he's about to hook up for his pull out of Nashville, Tennessee, the Chevy 705 cubic inches. And once again, His distance to beat, 175.72, turned in earlier by Jim Lyons in that less than healthy Stitches.
And Gary, I was outside earlier talking to Donnie, and he was still working on this truck. Of course, being the new body, he's also got some new parts inside. So let's hope that it holds together for him. He should do a good run.
A little over halfway, and the engine simply stops.
I'm not sure what happens. It might have been the kill switch on the back. A lot of times the chain, where the chains hook up, they get pulled away from there. But it looked like he was doing something inside the cab, Gary. I'm really not sure exactly what happened. The motor was running fine. He had a good run going. He had his momentum up, a lot of tire speed, and then all of a sudden, right about there, about 130 or 40 feet, he just kind of quit, and just the engine just went away right there.
Well, Donnie is still in the cab, and Army is walking out on the track to talk to him.
Donnie, I don't know where it started. A lot of hop, a lot of smoke. What do you do in a case like this?
Well, Army, I tell you, I hate to say it was all my fault. I reached to hit my switch to lock my clutch up, and I hit my mag switch to kill the engine.
So the engine, everything's go. It's just a little brain fade.
Well, I don't know. This weekend's been bad luck for me or something. I don't know what it is. This morning I got hurt out there in my hauler. My truck jumped off and fell against me and pinned me against the wall, and now come out here and kill the motor. And I mean, it's just not my weekend, is all I can say.
We'll be looking for you next weekend. Got to get better.
Thank you, Army.
It has to be frustrating and a bit embarrassing to admit it was your fault in the cab of that puller. As the crowd looks on, we are ready for one of the most unique pullers here in the Omni in Atlanta. Coming up next is David Willoughby. In the 1940 Ford, you are staring at 615 cubic inches, about 1,400 horsepower.
And Gary, you can see right there, you got a good shot of the front of the engine. Now, you notice on these four-wheel drives, they're not blown. They are injected, but they do not run superchargers. They just run the tunnel rams, and then they have the injection on top, and most all of them all have the exhaust pointing straight up in the air.
I think it's interesting as we look at the distance to beat that all these high horsepower V8s are shooting for the standard set by Jim Lyons in a very sick engine when he was pulling on about 6 cylinders. That first white line he needs to pass, and he can't do it as David Willoughby from Athens, Ohio turns in a distance of 167.95.
And Gary, it's strange. All these guys are going down, pulling about the same distance, but nobody can get past Lyons. Now, he had a good run here. You can see he's getting traction, but like when I talked to Lyons earlier, he said he likes being first, and I think the reason for that is on these indoor tracks, the tracks are made. They got to bring this dirt in, and so the track seems to go away farther down in the field.
Dave, that was one of the strongest runs I've ever seen the truck make.
The truck hooked up real well coming out, considering track conditions. We did get a good drive. The clutch was working well. Just enough slippage to keep the tires from spinning too hard, and the motor seemed to work. I'm real happy with it considering the track conditions and the number we pulled.
Well, if you'd have pulled the #1 position, would you be leading in this class right now?
Well, I hate to speculate, makes enemies, but I'd like to think we'd be right up there contending.
That pull by Willoughby in the 1940 Ford was the 3rd best overall. Now with 2 more pullers to go, we have to start to wonder if the track is beginning to come back around. Jim Lyons in Stitches with the 6th power plant was the first to pull, and he leads right now. Tommy Holman went out 2nd in the Saturday Night Driller. He is now 2nd. But remember, David Willoughby was the 6th puller, and he is now 3rd. We only have 2 more competitors to take a look at. Robert Galahan up next from Manassas, Virginia, driving a Ford, 600 cubic inches, cracking out about 1,200 horsepower. Rich, he will need every one for a full pull here today.
And Gary, Robert is a very good competitor in this sport, and he's got a very good running truck right now. This Ford puts out a lot of horsepower, and he's going to, like you said, he's going to need it because if he wants to get down there along with everybody, he's going to have to do it right. Now, he's lined up way over on the right-hand side, and if you notice where he sits, a lot of these guys put the seat and the steering wheel right in the middle of the truck, and the reason for this is you've got to be able to see your tires and to see how close you are to that white line along the side. He's lined up right next to it. Let's see what he does.
And Robert as well will fall short. A nice straight pull, but not far enough.
It does put him up ahead of Willoughby, but as you notice, he stayed all the way to that right-hand side. All these other guys were veering off to the left. So he hugged that right line all the way down, and that might have gave him that extra couple feet.
Well, that run of 169 feet will put Robert Galahan into third position with one puller left. That would be Glen Davis. But right now, let's go down to trackside where Army has caught up with Robert.
Robert, a 169, and you moved the sled a little bit to the right. Was that the way to go?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm still having a little problem out of the hole here indoors. It's real important indoors because the track's so short. Out of the hole is the big thing. And it's not quite coming out of the hole yet like I wanted.
Well, the crowd looks on with great anticipation as we have one last puller to take a shot at this man. Jim Lyons was the first to pull. Remember, he had the SICK power plant in Stitches, the GMC. He made his pull of 175.72 feet on only 6 cylinders. So only one driver now remains, Glen Davis and Mr. Sparkle out of Miramar, Florida. So let's see if the final puller can do it. Glen Davis, by the luck or the unluck, in his case of the draw, will be the last to pull here in the Omni.
And Gary, as you can see right there, he got a good shot of his engine. Now, if you notice his, what they call a bug catcher on top of the injectors, is turned around facing him so he can see them butterflies opening up, and he can tell how much throttle he's giving that truck. And as this guy here lines him up to the sled, he's getting ready to hook the emergency kill switch to the back of that in case these vehicles do get away from the sled.
When you talk about the engine, Glen is actually giving up 300 or 400 horsepower to some other trucks, but the way this track is breaking up, less horsepower may be better here.
That's true. A lot of times you don't want to get too much horsepower and you break away and you can't actually get the traction you need to make a good run. As he's getting ready to run, he's doing some final checks inside the cab there, and he's getting ready to take the green flag and try his best.
Well, the green lights are on the sled. There is the green flag. And finally, Glen Davis will have his shot at Jim Lyons here in the Atlanta Omni.
And of course, we just got done hearing him rev that engine 3 times. Glen Davis does that every time he runs. Maybe a little superstition, Gary.
Oh, superstition or not, he has a whale of a chance of taking it out of here, and he does. A full pull for Glen Davis, the final puller here in the Omni out of Miramar, Florida, and he will take the victory with the full pull.
It was an excellent pull, Gary. This man has got to be happy. He watches all these guys all evening long, just all pulling about the same. A couple had some problems. He comes out the last puller to win it after Jim Lyons was the first puller, and he led the distance the whole night long.
180 feet. It's a full pull for Glen Davis and Mr. Sparkle.
Glenn, a lot of people came in, looked at this track, said it's a real good clay track. You told me last week you're driving this track just like it was in South Florida, like it was a sandy track. And son, it seems to be working for you.
Yeah, you know, everyone said I didn't have a chance tonight being in the last truck. The track was going to go away, and I couldn't do it 3 times in a row, but I showed them I could do 3 full pulls in a row.
Who's going to be the man to beat when we do go back outside this year?
I'll tell you this, last year I didn't have my motor at the beginning of the year, but now I got 2 big Greg Kramer motors, and I'm going to be the man to beat this year.
Our congratulations to Glen Davis as he wins indoors in the Omni in Atlanta. We'll see what he can do when we go outside.